Science fiction movies, Apple AirTags, scars that disappear, and grandpa fashions. That's what's on the show today. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm David Yak here, and this is Yak About Today, where people of all ages can benefit from the people and technology around us. So listen up, because if I can learn something, you can learn something. Okay, thanks for listening. I am David Yak here. And I thought I should start the show today with an email, because it was an email that asked me a question that I really wanted to answer. So the email is from Danny, who says he is an 18-year-old athlete who loves science fiction movies. And this is a first. Usually, when I get an email from someone young, they are 55 or so. Anyway, Danny asks... Danny asks what my favorite science fiction movies are. So, when I thought about it, I had my list, and I realized that I think he was guessing that I was going to do the Star Wars versus Star Trek comparison, which I would like to do one day. But that's not where I'm going to start to answer this question, because the three movies that I picked probably came out so far back that, Danny, I don't think your parents were born yet. So let me get to the three right off the bat here. And I would say, and I'll give you a little description of each. The first one was The Day the Earth Stood Still. And the long title was actually, many people don't know, Farewell to the Master and Journey to the World. It's a 1951 American science fiction film from 20th Century Fox. And guess who it's directed by? It's directed by Robert Wise. He's known to you as the director of Sound of Music. And the film stars, many of you may not remember these names anymore, especially Danny, who's 18 years old. But the film stars Michael Rene, Patricia Neal, Hugh Marlowe, Sam Jaffe, Billy Gray, and Francis Xavier. And I'll give you the general plot outline. I don't want to go through the details of the entire movie. But basically, you see... and I'll try to do this in a dramatic way. A flying saucer lands in Washington, D.C. The U.S. Army, of course, quickly surrounds it. A humanoid emerges and announces that he comes in peace and with goodwill. Now, when he unexpectedly opens up a small device, he is shot and wounded by a nervous soldier. A tall robot emerges from the saucer and quickly disintegrates the entire army's weapons. The alien orders the robot Gort, that's the robot's name, Gort, to desist. He explains that now broken device was a gift for the President of the United States that would have enabled him to study life on the other planets. Anyway, the plot goes on, yaddy-daddy, there's love stories and mystery and all that. And by the way, the human race fails the tests, and it ends with Klaatu, that's the humanoid's name. He addresses at the end the scientists and tells them that his organization, his interplanetary organization, has created a police force of invincible robots like Gort. In matters of aggression, we have given the absolute power over us. Klaatu concludes, your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your preset course and face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. Klaatu and Gort depart in the saucer. So, this really came out at the beginning of the Cold War. So it's really representative of what was happening in that period of time. but also, if you think about it, and it may represent what's happening today. So what I would do is go see the movie, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and you tell me what you think it represents to you. All right, now we are really getting into two movies that I think are spectacular. One is Forbidden Planet. It's a 1956 American science fiction film for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and it was produced by Nicholas Nafak, and it was directed by Fred M. Wilcox, who was a great director. It stars one of my favorite old-time actors, Walter Pidgeon, Anne Francis, for those of you who remember her, and Leslie Nielsen, also at that time a big star. It was shot in Eastman Color and CinemaScope, and it's considered one of the great science fiction films of the 50s. And a lot of people think it's a precursor of contemporary science fiction cinema. So the characters and isolated setting have been compared to those in William Shakespeare's The Tempest. In fact, much of the story seems to follow Shakespeare's The Tempest, and the plot contains certain analogs to the play, leading many to consider it a loose adaptation. So it really achieved some extraordinary things. It pioneered several aspects of the science fiction cinema. It was the first science fiction film to depict humans traveling in a faster-than-light starship of their own creation. Think Star Trek and light speed and all that. It was also the first to be set entirely on another planet in interstellar space, far away from Earth. And the Robbie the Robot character is one of the first film robots that was more than just a mechanical tin can on legs. Robbie displays a distinct personality and is an integral part of the film of support. Let me step back. A lot of people consider Robbie a supporting character in the film as opposed to just a robot. And outside science fiction, the film was groundbreaking as the first of any genre to use an entirely electronic musical score, courtesy of Baby and Lewis. So here's some plot. And it's a very complicated plot, but I'll start you off. And again, you need to download or stream Forbidden Planet because it's just an extraordinary movie. So basically, it's the 23rd century, and the United Planet starship C-57D reaches the distant planet Altair 4, I believe it was, to determine the fate of an Earth expedition sent there 20 years earlier. So Dr. Edward Morbius, one of the expedition scientists, warns the relief ship not to land, saying he cannot guarantee their safety. But the ship's commander, John J. Adams, ignores his warning and lands. There he is met by Robbie the Robot, and their journey into one of the great science fiction movies begins. Go see that. At the end of this, I'll tell you to write me and tell me what your best science fiction movies are. Last but not least, this stayed with me, and they did a remake a couple of years ago. It's The Time Machine. It's also known as H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. They remade it, I think, 5 years ago, I can't remember. But this is the original, and it's from 1960. And I want to see, I know it's an MGM film, but, yes, it stars Rod Taylor. You know, Rod Taylor was one of those stars, but not superstar. And for those of you who remember those wonderful woman, Yvette Mimeo, who's in the film, and Alan Young, who is also in the film. And it was based on the 1895 novella of the same name by H.G. Wells that was influential on the development of science fiction. For those of you who don't want to download the movie but can get H.G. Wells' books, that was the beginning of science fiction as far as I'm concerned. And basically the plot of this is an inventor in Victoria, England, constructs a machine that enables him to travel into the distant future. And once there, he discovers that mankind's descendants have divided into two species: the passive, childlike, and vegetarian Eloi, and the underground-dwelling Morlocks, who feed on the Eloi. Anyway, Gene, I think it was Gene Warren and Tim Barr received an Academy Award for Best Special Effects. And this is the one that really is a centerpiece on the phone of the film. As he's going into the future, there's time-lapse effects which show how the world is changing as he goes into the future. And you need to see the original here. It's fantastic. And that's what they won the Special Effects Award for. So those are my three movies. Time Machine, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Forbidden Planet. Write to me. I love talking about these things. And, tell me what your science fiction movies are. And I will, Danny, I'm not sure you didn't ask this, but I'm just assuming. If you want to know Star Trek, Star Wars, I'm Star Trek. I'll go into that at another time. Hey, folks, David here. You know, as we age, taking care of our eyes becomes increasingly more important, and neglecting them can lead to some serious issues. I know because I've had some of those issues, and back then, several people recommended New Vision Eye Center, and quite frankly, I never looked back, pun intended. I was so impressed with Dr. Minotti, the care and the attention, and more importantly, how everything was explained to me in a way that I understood. And from that day on, there was no doubt that New Vision Eye Center would be the ones that I trust. I'm proud to have them as a sponsor of this show because I wouldn't trust my eyes to anyone else.
Don't talk back.
So, next on the agenda, I want to talk about, Apple introduced a whole set of new products the other day, and they were new iMacs based on their new chip, which is super fast, super great. I recommend if you're getting a new machine to get new machines with the M1 chip. You can get it now in the MacBook Airs. You can get it in MacBook Mini, and now in the iMacs. And the iMacs now come in a whole series of colors, much like they did when Apple put out the original iMacs years ago, and they came in this wonderful blue or orange. A lot of people hate the colors. I think they thought it through perfectly because I think it would be a great family computer, and you pick out a nice color and you put it into your room. Anyway, they did introduce something that has been expected for years, right? And everybody looked at it maybe as a ho-hum product, and they've seen it before. It's called Apple's new AirTag, and what it is a disc-shaped tracking gadget that can be attached to items like house keys to help you find them. And it differentiates from others that came before it, like Tile, because it uses a new technology, and it's really the first consumer product to use this new wireless technology. And I don't want to go into too much detail about it. It's called ultra-wideband, which lets you detect precisely the proximity between objects using this broadband technology. Your iPhone, when it's set up, can sense whether an AirTag is an inch or a dozen feet away from you. And it's so accurate that its app will even show you an arrow pointing you in the direction of the AirTag. And again, it's far better than the other trackers that rely on Bluetooth. I have it on order now. I couldn't get my hands on it earlier, but I've ordered one specifically for the car keys. They're $29.95 each, or you can get a packet of 4 for $99 and just stick it on everything you're afraid you're going to lose. But I specifically got it for our car keys. And the reason I got it for our car keys is that one day